Well, how is everyone doing? Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is November 13th, 2024. This is the RambleCast, and I'm your host, Cody Toombs. With me, I have Corbin Davenport.
Hi.
That he is energetic. So we have all very surely completely recovered from last week's whatever that was, right? No.
No.
Yeah, I know. I'm not sure there is recovery, but
On a long enough time scale, there is. We're just well into the decades at that point, though.
oh no. Once we've entered into the infinite timescale argument, things are bad.
Yeah. Will it happen before or after the sun expands enough to consume the Earth? That's always the question on my mind. Speaking of long enough time scales, Threads is getting ads.
I'll take that transition.
Yeah, so Threads, which is Meta / Facebook's Twitter clone that may have already had its time in the spotlight. We'll see.
I love the foreshadowing there.
Yeah, it's so according to a report from The Information, which The Verge and a couple other sites also covered, they claim that advertisements will come to Threads as soon as 2025. And as part of its plan, Threads will reportedly allow a small number of advertisers to make and publish ads in January. So this was always the plan, is that they were going to build the app, and then once they had enough users to justify like advertising platform system around it, then they would add ads. And don't really know any details about how they work. Presumably it would just look like how Twitter ads looked before most companies stopped advertising on Twitter. And it just became a lot of like My Pillow ads.
Yeah. And look, this is something everyone should have always known was coming. I don't believe too many people were ever under any illusions that ads weren't coming to Threads eventually. It was just more a matter of when would it happen, how would it happen, and what is it going to follow any sort of specific patterns. And to that I would say right now we don't know, but the fact that they're saying it's probably going to start with a limited set of advertisers, I assume that also means that the density of advertising is probably going to be fairly low to begin with, which is an important detail because I guarantee a lot of people are going to, like, the ads are going to show up, and I think a lot of people are going to say, oh, hey, it's not as bad as I thought it would be. It's not as bad as Facebook or not as bad as Instagram. Right. Yeah. It's not supposed to be. Not on day one. They're not just going to press the button and all of a sudden you get one thread and then 6 ads and then another thread. Like, it's not going to be that bad on day one. Give it some time. It will catch up.
Yeah, and this is happening in the backdrop of what we'll talk about later, which is Blue Sky getting a pretty big surge in users to the point where it is definitely, my vibe at least, is that it's becoming the de facto Twitter migration. Like, that's where everyone who just refused to move from Twitter are finally going. And Threads tried that at first, and it seems like they got some people to move, but not a lot. And my understanding is that it's still very like corporate Like they got like all of the brands over there immediately and kind of slow feed of normal people, and that's not really conducive to a place that I think a lot of people would want to spend their time.
Well, they also attracted a lot of influencer types.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, yes, that's also basically brands, but like the names that I saw immediately hopping over to Threads was like Peter McKinnon, MKBHD, I think went over there. You know, what's that?
He was fast to sign up for Threads, just like he was. I'm not gonna finish that.
No, go ahead. You can finish that. I mean,
okay.
It's fair game. He's getting
Almost
away with
as fast as he was driving in a school zone.
Technically, I don't think we know it was a school zone. Rather, it was next to a playground.
Right.
Which is worse.
Yeah. That was funny. Well, not funny, but you know.
I mean, we have to find things to laugh at, even if they're terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not scheduled to be a topic, but you never know. We could devolve into it.
So yeah, Threads is gonna slowly get ads. While it seems like it might not end up being where most people migrate to. Definitely still too early to tell there, but that's kind of the vibe I'm getting.
Honestly, I think what we're gonna get out of this is, so I do think Threads is going to have a high user base, but I think it's the same people who are already using Facebook and Instagram, because it's such a easy sort of in the same ecosystem transition. A lot of those people have gone over there. I think about a few of the people that I know from Facebook, or well, I had as friends on Facebook. They went over to Threads, and it seems like they're actually using it. Or at least they have used it. I guess
because when you're in Instagram and someone has set up Threads, it like adds their profile info there, and the Threads DMs and Instagram DMs are the same. So you know they're doing kind of the vertical integration. Well, not vertical integration, but like same infrastructure. Yeah. You know, like what Google does with everything it owns.
Yeah.
You know, I remember during early COVID when Google was like, "Oh no, how do we stop Zoom from dominating video chat?" And they're like, "Oh, we know. We're gonna put the Google Meet button in Gmail because everyone opens the Gmail app and we can just shove it in there." Also see the Google app, which has like 30 things in it.
Also see the whole situation with Google Plus back in the day. Yeah. I mean, it's worked.
They love doing that.
It's worked many times. Whether or not you could call it successful is debatable, but
I mean, really the golden example there is the Facebook app in the US, where it has like 100 things in it that should probably be separate, but they're not going to do that because they already got you in.
Yeah.
So we'll see what happens there.
Anyway, like you said, or well, as we were kind of coming into both saying, Threads is getting its user base. Whether or not that's going to be a particularly sticky thing will be debatable, but Blue Sky seems to be making its big run up on users. So the big news here, of course, in the last week, Blue Sky has clocked a huge boost of 700,000 new users. So at this stage, let's see, they're reporting 14.5 million total.
Yeah, that was quoting a stats dashboard that has definitely gone up since they wrote this.
Right, I was gonna say this was 2 days ago, so
yeah, it's over 15 now.
Okay,
if I can find the thing. I don't remember where it is anymore.
Hello, Carson, and of course, hello, Diablo. And I would say hello to Brawl, but presumably Brawl has gone to sleep.
Okay, here's the dashboard. I'll put this in the YouTube chat if anyone cares. Right now it's tracking 15.3 million users on Blue Sky. So that has already gone up quite a bit since that article was written. And that's total users. It's not like monthly active users or whatever. This is just pulling from their Firehose API, is my understanding. And I don't know if Blue Sky itself has said like a daily or monthly active user count. The stats dashboard does have a daily posters graph, which yesterday clocked 788,000 users making a post, but presumably there's a lot more than that are just scrolling timelines. So not really sure about that, but it's a lot of people. I can say, as someone who started using Blue Sky more like a month or two ago and then has kept using it up to now, I followed a lot more people, and the people who I was already following are more active because everyone's showing up and it's a fun time. It was like all the Mastodon surges before, so I can't really keep up with my timeline anymore. So I might need to unfollow a couple people. But yeah,
I still really haven't used Bluesky all that much. I'm not super inclined to get into it because I have a feeling I don't know. I'm not super motivated yet, but maybe I'll give it more of a shot soon. Obviously, I was one of, not an early user, but back when it was still invite only, I got in, which I think you gave me the invite, or somebody did.
Maybe.
Anyway, so yeah, it is neat to see this user surges, in large part because you can directly attribute this to the downfall of Twitter, which is always a positive. It feels a little bit weird that this is, even if Jack Dorsey is no longer technically involved in this, it is weird that this is basically one of his other spawned projects. But hey, I guess that's the way it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about it.
It's been interesting to watch because ever since Elon bought Twitter, there's been repeated surges of people trying a different app. There were a couple good Mastodon surges, because Mastodon was the only feature complete, not even feature complete, but closest to feature complete thing to Twitter. So everyone went there, and then a lot of people dropped off. And then there were a couple more, and then Threads came out, and there were a few migration waves to Threads, and then Blue Sky came out, and there were a couple more of that. And then the Twitter block changes and the election happening together, that seems to have been I think this is the most consequential surge since the initial Elon bought Twitter, we gotta go now.
Mm-hmm.
I think those are the two, at least in terms of what I'm seeing. I'm in a we're all in our social media bubbles, but that seems like the two mountains in this valley. There's a bunch of little hills in between where people jump ship, but for whatever reason, it took death by 1,000 cuts. Everyone's waiting until it got really, really bad to actually try it. And there's Blue Sky is finally getting more of the people that I log into Twitter every once in a while, and I check there all right, are you guys still here? Can I follow you guys somewhere else, please? I don't want to be here anymore. And this is the one where there's like a lot more of the remaining stragglers are going to Blue Sky. And obviously, I would have liked if Mastodon was the winner here. That's still the one I prefer. That's the one that has actual apps at this point. There's not, there's like a couple Blue Sky apps, but they're pretty limited. So it's fine. You know, this is still better than people hanging out on Twitter. Um, I definitely think Blue Sky is a better platform than Threads right now. Obviously, like I do think all these platforms will get progressively worse as time goes on because that's just what happens now. I think really like every platform that is not Mastodon slash the Fediverse has like 10 years of lifespan, and then it starts like declining. And this is just going to be the circle we all live in. And then Mastodon slash the activity pub ecosystem, whatever, is going to continue to be off to the side and doing its own thing, where its rise and falls are like the big servers, but it's going to stay going because that's what it's been doing for over 10 years, I think. Because the activity pub protocol is pretty old now, but before that there was O status, which Mastodon was originally built around. So there was like an ecosystem, still going there. So that's my prediction at this time. But Blue Sky, unlike Threads, Blue Sky they started off with a desktop site. I think like the desktop site's been there for forever. Threads took a while to get that. You can build your own timelines, whereas Threads is doing the meta thing where they're like, we really want you to use our algorithmic timeline, and like we hit a little button somewhere if you want chronological, and those are your two options. Right now it's very good because again they're in the stage where it seems like they have a lot of money, they have a lot of fresh users coming in, life is good for everyone involved, but eventually it will start getting bad because it's still a company that needs to turn a profit. So we'll see what happens then. But Blue Sky does seem like the one that is finally coalescing a lot of the Twitter user base.
So the one thing that man, it's almost exhausting thinking about this because I know I've said this too many times before, but this is kind of that perpetual cycle of all of them are going to be bad in some way and have some reasons why they're probably either doomed to fail or, dare I say, doomed to succeed, but in a bad way. And probably not a lasting way. I mean, I've said this about Mastodon before. It's kind of doomed to fail because it's relatively expensive to run. Objectively speaking, it's actually a pretty inefficient thing because of how many servers have to maintain copies of the same data. It's kind of a mess with how people can move from server to server, and it doesn't really have a good way of like migrating from place to place. You're leaving behind old accounts that are basically all just kind of strung along. Things like images and videos that get posted are basically very short term in the long run because servers don't want to just host a thing forever. So a lot of that stuff is sort of just doomed to disappear. And whether or not that's important is debatable, but ultimately it kind of sucks. Blue Sky has the same problem Twitter always had. Someday it has to find a way to make money. At least in theory it does. I mean, I've said this before too. The thing about Twitter is it got along for like 10 years without ever actually trying to make money. Because the whole thing was, look, to avoid potential legal ramifications, I'm going to not call it a scam, but I'm going to say it was scam adjacent, where Twitter's whole thing was get a bunch of users so that they could get money from investors that could then be used to buy other companies. and then change those companies in some way to then flip them for a profit or use them to make profit. Twitter itself was really just investor bait.
Right. They were the Uber of social media platforms.
I don't even know how to. That's. I don't know how to respond to that, but
Yeah, I do think a Mastodon is definitely, unfortunately, in every way imaginable, the Linux of social media.
Oh God, yeah.
Like, it's not gonna be mainstream. It's just not. I wish it was not. It's going to continue to be slow to adopt some technologies and features it should, but it will last forever. And it's going to continue to have like a dominant like nerd user base, and that's just how it's going to be.
I'll agree it will last forever, but I have a very strong feeling it's going to. I think it's going to last for a couple, 2-3 more years in its current state. Maybe gaining a few users here and there, but I think they're good. If they haven't already, they're going to hit an inflection point where the active usage dwindles, maybe rapidly, maybe not, but I think it's going to dwindle away probably as Blue Sky takes over. And
well, they've been dropping users because, and I think a lot of the people who were trying Mastodon initially, they went back to Twitter, or they tried Threads, or increasingly they're using Blue Sky more.
Right.
But yeah, like I think, like, I don't know about the Mastodon project itself, but I think like, yeah, that whole ecosystem will last for a long time, or morph into something else.
Hopefully, yes.
Yeah, I the only kind of open question mark there is that if Blue Sky becomes like super dominant, and they are interested in keeping their API and sort of open platform alive, then maybe some of the open ecosystem will go there. I don't know. That's too far. There's too many variables there, and maybe we shouldn't have just one implementation of social media. So I don't know if that's a good idea or not, but yeah,
generally no.
Interesting times,
but
interesting times we live in.
Yes. But
this is a lot more fun to speculate about than politics.
Is it?
Even though I think so. Although politics is why we are here. So, whatever.
Yeah.
Everything is politics.
Yeah. Yeah, okay, I'll get behind that.
Speaking of politics.
I was going to say something that isn't.
Probably. There's probably like you give me enough time here, I'll figure out a way. Yeah, so Apple has released Final Cut Pro 11 and Logic Pro 11. Final Cut Pro being their professional video editor, and Logic Pro being their professional audio editor. And there's mostly just off the top, these are now version 11. They were on version 10 for like a decade. This was like a Mac OS situation where they just stayed on 10 for a really long time. But they've decided to move on now. So the Logic, or I guess maybe Logic was already on 11 because this update is 11.1.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm pretty sure Logic already bumped.
Okay. Yeah, and the Mac Rumors article says Final Cut Pro has been version 10 since 2011.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so all of these have a lot of AI, Apple Intelligence goodness. There's a new magnetic mask in Final Cut, which lets you, like, it'll select moving objects in your clip. So you can isolate people or objects without green screen or, manually dragging around where the object is in each frame.
Yeah, manual rotoscoping is a miserable process. I mean, once you get good at it, you can do it fairly quickly, but yeah, it's not something that's fun to do. This, for the most part, is more like you just pick an object, it, and the exact tools of how it works. Haven't seen the I haven't seen exactly what goes into doing it specifically, but apparently, okay, yeah, the animation I've got up on screen kind of shows you can literally just draw or drag a tool into your frame, and it picks like whatever it detects to be an object, which in this particular example is a person, and it sort of automatically cuts them out. And the beauty of something like this is then you could use it to do effects. You can have them like walk through text. You can do a lot of interesting things by using masks.
Yeah, and so they have that. They have transcribed to captions, which is supposed to let Final Cut Pro automatically create captions in the timeline.
Notably, it creates ITT captions, which are, for lack of a better way to put it, that is the same type of built-in caption that you get with like being able to turn captions on and off in a movie or a TV show. This is a separate text track that exists alongside the audio and video tracks, and usually it is just based on whatever, or it looks like whatever your TV or video player chooses to show captions like, which as a writer in this article points out, they wish that this allowed you to do stuff more like Instagram's, like word pop-up captions and stuff like that, which, okay, I guess that's a thing that people might want to do. It's sort of mega popular. And if this particular author knew a little bit more, he'd know that there's actually a lot of really easy ways to do that with ITT captions, but that's besides the point.
Yep. So there's that stuff. There's support for editing spatial video because Apple has to make all their Vision Pro movies.
And I think it's kind of crazy that this wasn't something that they launched alongside the Vision Pro. Yeah. They should have.
Yeah, and there's a bunch of other smaller things, like new transitions. It'll hide original clips when creating sync clips, all that fun stuff. So the iPad version, which is like kind of a separate app, also got an update. I don't think it has the same selection tools. It doesn't look like it. But it does have, which is weird because it's the same chip.
Well, it's the same chip, but it is a different interface, technically.
Yeah, well, until you plug in your Apple Magic Keyboard and mouse, and then it should be the same interface, but that's fine. You need a reason to buy both the MacBook Pro and the iPad Pro.
Right.
So that's why we're going to do that. And
the remember,
iPad version,
you still can go only one direction. So you can take a video project that you started on the iPad and take it to the Mac. You cannot go from Mac to iPad, which is not great.
That's not great. I think it would be cool if I could start editing a podcast on my Mac and then go do some of it in bed with my iPad and pencil and then go back, but I cannot do that. And also I then have to pay for Logic Pro twice because I already bought the desktop version. But the iPad version is separate and it's a subscription, so that's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some new color balance stuff. There's haptic feedback for the Apple Pencil Pro and Magic Keyboard, so you get like a little bit of a feedback when you're trimming clips and that kind of stuff. Also, there's an update to Final Cut Camera, which is their app for recording, kind of their equivalent to raw footage. I don't know why this is a separate app.
Okay, so to explain that, there are a few reasons why they made a separate app, and it's basically so that they could have something that, how do I want to say this? The built-in camera app on the iPhone is aimed at your typical average user. It's aimed at people who aren't trying to make necessarily production videos. They're just trying to make, or they're just trying to record a video. Final Cut camera is more like the, I guess you could call it the professional grade tool. It's oriented and organized with the features that are aimed at more production serious situations. You know, it's like in the stock camera, nobody would want features like being able to load in a camera LUT. That would be a ridiculous feature to put in there because no one's ever going to understand it. And if someone unintentionally or accidentally loads one in and doesn't realize it, they could end up with recording something that looks completely bizarre, and they're never going to know why. Whereas if you're using something like Final Cut Camera, you should probably know what you're doing, or have enough of an idea of what you're doing that if you load in a LUT, or if you make any bizarre changes to your settings, you probably know why you did that and what those settings affect. So I get that. That said, yeah, so they added the ability to shoot in log. For those that don't know, and I've kind of explained this before, so this is the super, super basic explanation. Imagine with log, what you're doing is recording everything that the camera sensor gets, but you're kind of smashing it into a smaller range of color. The reason for doing this is you can get more highlights and more dark or more low light into your view. And that way, when you basically change it back out of log, you have a little bit more range to work with. So you won't blow out highlights as easily or have sections that are just completely blacked out and dark and unusable. You will still have those things. This doesn't make them go away, but they're better this way. Right. It's easier to work with if you know, or once you know what you're doing with log. That said, this is not camera raw. It's just the much smaller file size attempt to do something sort of like that.
So it's like your AV1 to your uncompressed video. Like it's trying to get some of the benefits in there, but like it still needs to be a small file.
I mean, if you don't care about how it works and why it works, yeah, that's a good comparison.
Okay, perfect.
Once you get into the hows and whys, that would become a really bad comparison because it doesn't explain why you would want to do it or how it relates.
Right. Also,
codec versus
a
totally different structure. I don't know. Yeah. Nevertheless, this bypasses the thing where the Final Cut camera really was only record in regular video or record in ProRes. Now you have something that's kind of in between, which is an improvement.
Yeah, that's definitely a good thing when Apple intends for you to film this on your iPhone with limited storage and presumably other things using that storage.
Don't forget, you can also plug in external storage.
On some iPhones.
Well, yes, okay, on Pro iPhones.
In
fairness, I don't remember if this app even works on Pro. I think it does. I'm pretty sure it does, but it would be like Apple to release an app that only works on the Pros.
Yeah, and the Final Cut Pro for Mac is still a one-time purchase of $300, and the iPad version.
No, it's $400 now.
Um, Mac Rumor says 300.
Mobile Syrup.
App Store says 300.
Let's see. Mobile Syrup said 400. Where was that?
Here's the App Store link on the YouTube chat. It says $299.99, but I'm gonna round up because that's nonsense.
Okay, maybe they typoed. Maybe that's something that's set to change. I'm not sure.
Well, regardless, everyone should probably just get the education bundle instead. That doesn't need to be an education. That you get Final Cut, Logic, and like the other apps that I forgot. Main Stage. I don't know what that does, but I've had it installed.
It's for live productions.
Okay, yeah, the thing I do all the time.
Yeah.
I think that isn't that 200? I don't remember.
That sounds right.
I forget. Buy Pro Apps bundle for education. It's $200. So this bundle where like you don't really need to be in education. I don't know if they even pretend to have a check for this. I think you can just buy it.
On and off they have.
Okay. I don't remember what I did to get this, but it was well after I dropped out of college. But yeah, this bundle, I'll also put this in the YouTube chat if anyone cares. This is $200. It bundles Final Cut Pro, Logic Pro, Motion Compressor, and Main Stage, all in one thing. And it works the same, so you don't have to like download all those apps to your computer if you don't want to. It's just, your license key to go download it in the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I do kind of wish that Apple would offer the Mac as a subscription as an option, or maybe like some other system where like if you're just getting started doing this, you don't have to dump hundreds of dollars immediately. It would be nice if there was an option there, but I think this is still preferable to the Adobe thing where you don't get a choice. It has to be a subscription.
So I could be mistaken, but I believe I don't know about the iPad version, but I believe the desktop version you get a 3-month trial, or can get a 3-month trial. So I mean that's a pretty generous trial.
Yeah, that's better.
So yeah, I don't really I think that's fair. I'm good with that, because that gives you enough time to actually learn the software, spend some time with it. You're not just
It is rushing. 90 days. So yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's solid. I think that's okay. Like, I'm not mad about that. It depends on the software, but I think a 1-month trial is not enough time on a lot of things. And something like a Pro Tool, like Final Cut, that honestly, like that takes a few weeks just to really get to the point that you know it well enough to use. So a 1-month trial wouldn't be good enough there. A 3-month trial, I like that.
And this is still the one-time purchase
Yeah.
for updates forever. Well,
So
forever
far.
until they decide to do this. But like, we're on 10 years of you not having to buy it again. So that's a good track record, at least.
Actually, we're past 10 years, but yeah.
13 years. Whereas like Microsoft, they still do let you buy like the Office apps as one-time purchases, but you don't get feature updates on those. And then there is a new one every, I think it's 3 years, 3 or 4 years.
I know the pattern used to be 3. I don't know if it still is.
They just jumped from, I think it was 2021, and they just released 2024. So that's kind of a bummer. And that's what everyone used to do. It's what Adobe used to do. And now you don't get that option. So
yeah. Though how much you really need to upgrade each year,
right.
Yeah. Hard to make that argument.
which is why it's a subscription now.
Exactly.
Because I know if it worked natively on Apple Silicon and didn't have like a performance decrease, and I didn't need the cloud storage in Lightroom or prefer the cloud storage in Lightroom, yeah, it'd still be on Photoshop CS5. That was a good release.
Yeah.
It worked fine. CS6. I was on pirated CS6 for a long time.
I think a lot of people still are.
Yeah, it's good. Really, like beyond that, it's just like, oh, the content aware field got a lot better. That's the main thing for me. And obviously now, you know, that was x86 only, and I would prefer native apps now.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've used Photoshop. Said I've just been on Affinity for so long. Or well, I guess going on like 2 years or so. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see how long I stick with this, but I'm not happy with the image editing scene. But hey, we talked about Pixelmator last week. Maybe that will eventually take over for me.
And speaking of editing things that are not videos or images, Apple also updated Logic Pro. So now there is Logic Pro 11.1 for Mac and 2.1 for iPad. Same structure. It's a one-time purchase on Mac of
should be 200.
Yeah, I think it's the same. Mac Rumors didn't include a link. How did that sound like echo? Shut up. It made a sad sound at me. Logic Pro for Mac is 200 on its own. But again, get it in the bundle if you're gonna do this. So the Logic Pro update, it adds again more AI stuff. There's a new plugin that kind of simulates room sounds. There is plugin search. There is dragging channel strips to organize your mixer layout. A lot more like plugin organization stuff. There's a little bit of that of AI improvements in the room simulator plugin and stuff like that, but it's not quite as impressive, I think, as the Final Cut updates. And there's some more like just a couple of UI and usability improvements. And yeah, Logic Pro is the only one of these two that I have used extensively. And I like it, but I wish there was more AI stuff for the workloads I do. So most of my workflow with Logic Pro has been editing Tech Tales podcasts. And Logic Pro like isn't really made to do that. That's not really its purpose, but a lot of people use it for that. And for me, it is a substantial step up from Audacity. So I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know what most of the buttons do, but I just don't click the buttons that I don't know, and it's fine. Just like driving in a new car, I'm not going to press the button. So yeah, I would like to see them do more AI stuff here, like that automatic transcription stuff in Final Cut would be cool here. I think they could do some impressive stuff with filtering out things. Like I would really like it if I could press a button and it would delete all of my mouth sounds and my ums and my hms and my sitting in silence for 10 seconds while my brain processes information. All those would be good.
Yeah, I get you. So yeah, I've used Logic a little bit here and there. Stuff like I've gone through and done a little bit of audio cleanup on projects in the past. I don't know. Obviously I use it for like recording when I do Tech Tales or something like that. Otherwise, yeah, I'm not super experienced with it. I've used Final Cut more than Logic. I used to use it for any of the video stuff that I did for Android Police. I've used it for a few other oddball projects here and there. But as I've said many, many times, I've switched over to DaVinci Resolve. I've used that a lot more. I prefer the interface. And yeah, so plus it has what is basically Logic kind of built into just one of its tabs. So, and I've used that, but admittedly haven't really dug into it hardly at all. So I know about it. I'm aware of how to use it. Just, yeah, not super experienced. I don't do a lot of audio stuff or audio centric stuff.
It's so much better with Logic. Near the end of me switching, like the last few Tech Tales episodes I edited with Audacity were like extremely painful. Mostly just coming down to Logic Pro having non-destructive editing and Audacity being almost entirely destructive editing. That alone made a huge difference. So when someone I'm recording with turns on their fan like halfway through, I can just go back in and apply the same level filter to their whole track. I'm not like background noise removal on like the third layer of this to the point where their voice sounds like a phone call as the track continues. It's good. It's good. Exporting is a little like it's missing some options. So now I just have, when I'm editing the Tech Tales, I export to just the big WAV file with all the data in it, and then I have my bash, and then I have my my bash script that does all the rest. So I don't have to think about that. But yeah. So Apple, please add more AI stuff that I would use. Thank you.
But yes, so in other news about things that Apple's going to add to places, Apple wants to add a tablet to your wall. Yep, that is the report that is coming out of Bloomberg. Mark Gurman, he is telling us that they're finally going to try to do Google's Home Hub or the Echo Show, or was there another one? I don't know. Anyway, yeah, the basic idea is
smart displays.
Yeah, it's the thing that we've all known Apple was going to eventually get to, and they just took forever to get there. So reportedly, this is basically just an iPad, but it's going to have a mount on the wall. Apparently, it's going to have a roughly 6-inch square screen, or square-ish. So think, as this is described, basically two iPhones side by side, or yeah, I would think more like the iPad Mini, but with an even squarer or display. Which, I mean, the Mini's already what, 16 by 9? Or no, is it 4 by 3?
I think it's 3 by 2, but I'm not sure.
Okay, well, whatever. It's presumably it's going to be more squarish. Whether or not it's actually square or not, who knows. It apparently will have a camera, a built-in battery and internal speakers, and I guess they will offer it in silver and black. Right out of the gate, I hear this and I question, why does it have a built-in battery? I guess, what, you'd be able to pull it off the wall and take it with you places?
Maybe for the same reason my thermostat has a battery. Like, it's just like the backup.
Sure. And yeah, if there's a power outage, I get that you might want that. I suppose another argument for this is, since it has a camera, and there are mentions of like using this for FaceTime or something like that. I could see maybe sort of you want to be able to pull it off the wall and take it with you while you're on a call. Um, Maybe it wouldn't have like an all-day battery, but it'd have enough that you could, pull it off the wall, walk it around the kitchen with you while you have a call, or to show people something you're cooking, or I don't know, anything in that sort of neighborhood. I could see that as a reason for the battery, but
Yeah, and they mention this Verge article says Apple has reportedly created multiple bases for the smart display, so it can hang on a wall or sit on a countertop with a stand with extra speakers, and run an operating system that, quote, looks like a blend of the Apple Watch operating system and the iPhone's recently launched standby mode, quote. So I don't understand this. So I need Apple to release it so I can hear their pitch for this. Because the whole smart display market has been really weird to me, where there was initially a push to what I think was probably the closest to a correct approach, was to take how smart speakers work and just add a screen. Like that's what Google did. That's what Amazon did. It's like, okay, the main interaction is still voice, but like I can also look at it and it might be doing things, or like it adds touch controls for the music that's playing or something like that. So I can get that. I had a Google Home Hub for a while. It was moderately useful. I wish it ever added like a calendar or something, because I had it on my desk. It would have been nice for that. But anyway, that kind of made sense to me. But now Google started moving towards the Pixel tablet, which is just an Android tablet that like kind of switches into that mode, but like in a worse way, and it's more expensive. And they also kind of gave up on the entire third-party ecosystem for that Nest platform. So it's just, they make a bunch of smart displays, and then the tablet that's kind of a smart display but not. And then Amazon is still kind of doing the based on Alexa smart speaker thing, but I don't really know how well that's doing. I know they've removed a couple features from the Echo displays after they came out. Like there was like a cool like picture gallery mode thing that got removed, so they could put ads on the screen instead. And then like no one else is really trying this except Google and Amazon. Obviously Apple is trying something, but they don't have anything out. So I don't really know how. I don't understand the pitch for this yet, because if they're building it off their like smart speaker ecosystem, Siri sucks. There's still next to no HomeKit devices. Matter was supposed to make HomeKit okay, but Matter's flailing, so I don't know what's going on there. No one bought the HomePod, so like I don't know what they're building up from there. If they're building like an entirely new thing, then my question is like why would I not buy an iPad mini and 3M stick tape it to my wall? Like why wouldn't I do that? Why not make an iPad mini with like a couple MagSafe magnets and then make a stand for that? And then even have it switch into the the iPhone standby mode thing, where I slap it on the wall and it turns into a clock with light buttons on it. That seems like it would be better. So I don't know. It sounds like, based on the reporting we have so far, it sounds like they're building like a worse iPad that will probably cost around the same as you can get an okay iPad. So I don't fully understand. The one thing that they could do differently is, would this be? It should be like a multi-user device, like a thing that just sits in your house and it behaves in a way where like your personal data is not like accessible to everyone else, and that's something that Google I think did a pretty good job with. Mm-hmm. So maybe they're trying to, Yeah, so like maybe they're trying to do something there that necessitates a completely new thing. I don't know. I get worried that Apple's entire product strategy now is like, how do we make things? We need like a new device, so we're gonna make a slightly different iPad. Like that's what the Vision Pro was. It was like a big iPad on your face, and now they're making a thing that is like an iPad but in your kitchen permanently. Um, I don't understand this yet. I'd like to see what they're doing. I might. I again. I'm not really into this whole ecosystem anymore. Again, I had like the Google one for a while, but it never was useful as a second like information panel to me. So I just kind of stopped using it. I don't really know what Apple's planning here.
Yeah, I specifically take issue with the price because this was the thing everyone complained about with the Pixel tablet. I mean, there was never any question that was overpriced.
And the Pixel tablet was like a full tablet.
Yeah.
So like it was a decent tablet, but a bad shared device. Whereas it sounds like this might be like a good shared device, but like a bad tablet and maybe as expensive or more expensive as a comparable tablet. So
yeah, and I think if Apple does not tread very carefully here, their risk of appearing to just be making a product for the purpose of being overpriced. It literally, it could be kind of, as you were saying, just an iPad, but with a different software experience, but on the lower end of even what the iPads are. So it could be low quality hardware at potentially a higher price, which no one is going to want to go for.
Because Apple loves doing that. They love making things that are functionally similar but are differentiated in software. Mm-hmm. Like this is the thing that people go back and forth about the iPad and Mac all the time, where if Apple wanted to, they could make a MacBook Pro that's a 2-in-1 with stylus support, and then everyone who's buying an iPad for digital art or whatever could just get that. But they're not going to do that because they would like you to buy the MacBook and buy the iPad.
Yeah.
So maybe this will be the same thing again, and if so, that's pretty disappointing.
So yeah, I think this is something where if Apple is smart about it, what they should probably do, and obviously I'm just throwing out kind of what I would think is a good product. I think their smart play is to make something that's more in the, say, $200 to $250 price range. Put in any M series chip, or even an iPhone chip. You could get away with that. Put in something that is on the low price range, or low range for them to make something that they already were manufacturing and don't really need to like develop anything new for, and put it into a case that's a little lower quality, a little maybe lower resolution screens, something like that, something that's not gonna be too demanding, because it doesn't need to be too demanding. And go ahead, put in an okay camera rather than your best cameras. And yes, it needs to come with some sort of attach point, or a reasonably priced like
no, because this is definitely,
I know you can't see it, but I had a lot of ease in that reasonably priced. Yeah.
Because this is Apple's favorite thing, to make like a pretty decently priced product, and then they're like, oh, you want a case for it, $500,
right?
Like I remember the last time I went in an Apple store and I like wandered over to the wall where they have like the Apple Watch stuff, and I was like, I could use a new band, let me see how much they, never mind. I'm not paying $100 or whatever it is for your watch bands. The one I got, the Velcro band I got on Amazon for $7 is great.
Yep.
And like all their, iPad cases, all their folio cases are all horrible.
Yeah, and I'm fully on board with the idea that, look, I don't think that all of their stuff has to be quote unquote reasonably priced. What I think they need to have is the base thing that comes in the box, or like maybe you buy this cheaper end tablet, and you have a choice between sort of the default stand, which is something that could just be like your kitchen counter stand, or you could order the much more expensive like wall mounting kits, or you could order, I don't know, various other stands that include speakers. And at that point the prices start skyrocketing up to, $250 just for your speaker stand, or your wall stand is $150, whatever. Like at this point, everyone cringes going, oh my god, the tablet was so cheap, but blah blah blah, I hate how much the stands cost, and people still buy them.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Apple would make more money by just adding a smart display home control mode to the iPad, and like add it to all the iPads, and then like you can sell different mounting things for each one, and like you can sell the like first class. Like barely anyone buys an iPad mini, and that's why they only update it like once every 10,000 years. So make that like your smart home thing, and then you create more demand for that. And then like if I'm if I'm a homeowner and I'm like, Apple, I want the giant screen on my wall for controlling all my lights. Apple's like, great, this is the 13-inch iPad Pro. You can put it on your wall. Like, is that not the better? Why are you making a different thing? I know Apple likes to do the thing where they make a slightly different thing so they can sell it, but like they could sell 13-inch iPad Air for your wall, and then like that's something that they already sell and they make a lot of money off of. I don't get it.
The reason
I need to see what they're doing here.
The reason that I think they go with what I was describing is entirely because they can manufacture it, or it gives them a way to use the chips that they already may have over manufactured. So, if they make, I don't know, let's just say they make a batch of A15 A15 cores or whatever processors. Obviously they can package them however, but if they make too many of these, or if they make some amount and they're like, all right, we're not going to move enough of these to finish out whatever line of smartphones or whatever, all right, we now have a different product that we can funnel these into. And it's a product where they care less about what's actually in it, as long as it runs. And this is the kind of product where they could even, as they run out of specific components, they can more easily say, yeah, we're just going to quietly upgrade from this core or chip to this other core or chip, and no one's supposed to care because this is more of an appliance. It's less like an actual computer or whatever. So in theory, they could just do that kind of a thing and get away with it. And it gives them a way to basically clear out old stock. Now, do they care about doing that? I don't know, but that would kind of make some sense for why they would do it this way.
Yeah, no, there's not enough details here, so I need to see what they're thinking here, but I don't get it right now. Maybe because I don't get like this entire product segment. But
I think the product segment's fine. It's that how Apple is going to do it while competing on price. Because I think this is something where they have to compete on price, unless this is really just hey, we're making a new tablet, and it's supposed to be a tablet more than it's supposed to be a home control thing.
Yeah, maybe because they do sort of have a version of this with like the HomePod Mini, where like that's kind of in the same price bracket as like the normal Echo speaker that it would be comparable to,
which is offensive.
Not the Echo Mini that costs. I think like that just shows up in your home. It spawns there. You don't actually have to buy one. So yeah, we'll see. And then also another Apple thing. I'm not going to try with the transition here. Apple is rolling out so iOS 18.2 is in beta right now. And one of the things it adds is the ability to share AirTag locations as links. So if you have an AirTag or anything else in the Find My ecosystem, so if you have like a third-party tracker or one of the like backpacks with the tracker integrated or whatever, you can now share a link to its location, and basically that link will stay active as long as you want it to, or I think you can set like a predetermined expiry date. And the main intention here is sharing it with like companies, where like if you're at the airport and you lose your bag, and you can send this to whoever your airline is and be like, I found my own bag, please retrieve it. Here is the live tracking information for the thing you lost. And they say in the where do they say that? Users can generate a share item location link in the Find My app on iPhone, iPad, or Mac. Recipients of a link will be able to view a website that shows a location of the item on an interactive map. The website will automatically update when a new location is available and show a timestamp of the most recent update. And they show screenshots of it in this. It just looks like, the Find My interface. And then they say, in the coming months, more than 15 airlines will begin accepting Find My item locations as part of their customer service process for locating mishandled or delayed bags. More airlines will be added over time. But like, it's not just for that. There's like, I would probably use this, like if you are loaning someone to someone and it has a tracker on it, give them the link. Mm-hmm. Basically just like any situation where like you want to tell someone where one of your things is, without having them as like a contact in your phone, is the main use for this. So a lot of cool stuff. I know you're not really supposed to use Find My trackers for living things, but like if someone's pet sitting and you have one of the like pet collars with the tracker in it, you could use that. Presumably they're probably in your contacts, so that might not be necessary, but maybe they're on, a dirty Android phone and they don't have the Find My app. There you go.
Sort of in that same vein, I am totally picturing this becoming one of those things where it's like if your kids are going out on like school field trips or something like that, you could totally drop one of these trackers into like their backpacks or whatever and give it to the teachers and say, hey, if anything happens, you have a way to track my kid. If they get lost, if they go somewhere in the wrong direction, like, here's a way to find them. Wish you luck.
Yeah. Here's a treasure map, but it's pointing to my child. Yeah.
The treasure at the end is not getting sued.
You're not supposed to put, the item in on people or things attached to people, but
we know what happens.
Yeah, it's fine when it's the correct way, not when you're stalking someone.
Yes.
Don't do that. So yeah, pretty good. Like this combined with the thing they added in I think it was iOS 18, where they finally added the ability to share, because originally you couldn't share AirTags at all, like for like 2 or 3 years, and then finally in I think it was iOS 18, they added the option to share your tags with other contacts, and now they finally added the link part. So now they have pretty much all the features that like um what was the main tracker company before AirTags? I
Tile.
forget. Yeah, Tile. Like they kind of have like all the Tile features now, which is nice. So, yeah, pretty cool, pretty useful.
So Google, your move. How about
uh,
actually? To be fair, I think you already can share. Well, okay, I know you can share on the Find My network. I don't remember. I don't think there's a way to share links in this same sort of way. But that's probably something that, let's be honest, they'll be able to add without too much work.
and
Um,
and it's a little bit less necessary because if you're sharing a tracker with someone, it's accessible to anyone with a Google account in like a web browser.
mhm.
Whereas Apple's was a little bit more locked down. Like they did have a. I don't think the I don't think the web app, the Find My web app that like you get to on the iCloud website shows items. I think it only shows devices. But I'm not sure. I could go look that, check mine because I have like 5 trackers on my account.
But yeah, the first thing that Big G has to do is not worry about this. They need to worry about getting their trackers usable in the first place, because that remains the biggest complaint there.
Cody said, "My kid can share their location on the Find My app. I don't need an AirTag, but I raise my kids to communicate with me." Yeah, if they have just like an iPhone, or I assume it also works on the LT Apple Watches, then yeah, it's just like their personal location.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty good too. Pixel tracker win. They should have that, but I don't know. Maybe uh, maybe Google already made all of the tracker OEMs really annoyed when they delayed their platform by like 6 or 8 months, however long that was.
Yeah.
So maybe they don't want to like make immediately make them more annoyed by eating into their profits, potential profits.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure if Google was going to do this, they would have done it at the launch time.
Yeah, and like as long as like one company will make a tracker that's like the price of an AirTag, I don't see why they need to do that.
Right. And who knows? Maybe we'll see a Pixel tracker someday. But I think that they're gonna wait until the time comes that either it has to be them that does it, or I don't know. I'm not really sure if another scenario comes up. Maybe as a cost thing or something, but it just doesn't sound likely. Yeah, I don't know. Anything else to say on that? Yeah, it's an ultra wideband, please. Though there is the Motorola tracker, whatever that one was called. That one does do ultra wideband, so it exists. The problem is now they don't have the software support to do the ultra wideband like direction detection.
Yeah.
Or well, direction and range.
I guess my last thing on this is that AirTags are now on sale right now, and it's like a pretty big discount. So that combined with the rumor mill probably means there's new AirTags coming soon. So something to keep in mind. Also, if you need AirTags, go buy them now. Because are they like $20? I forgot.
Well, evidently not from Apple. I don't know who's selling them.
Yeah, I went. Yeah, they're on Amazon individually. They're 19 a pop right now, and then you can get a 4-pack for 70.
Not bad.
Yeah, I think I have one or two Apple AirTags, and then the other ones are Anchor's clone that uses the same ecosystem, and I have those in like bags and my bike. So yeah, they're pretty good. Okay, so moving on to second to last thing, VMware is now free. So VMware Fusion and VMware Workstation, which are like virtualization apps for desktop, they're now completely free for everyone for commercial, educational, and personal use. They already made Workstation Pro and Fusion Pro free for personal use a couple months ago. So this like technically doesn't really change anything if you're just like one person, but now like if you're a big business, you can use it for free. So this is pretty good as long as they don't kill VMware, because just happened after Broadcom bought VMware, and they've not been doing the best job with that acquisition. So hopefully this doesn't mean that like they're just gonna not work on VMware anymore. I don't know.
Yeah, I get the impression that they have other business interests that are based on this, and hopefully their strategy is more built around getting higher user numbers rather than sort of disavowing the project. But it's hard to tell.
And this article from Bleeping Computer does mention that free users don't get like professional support or anything, so that's the understandable catch here. But kind of the reason why this, so like this is like comparable to VirtualBox and Parallels and that kind of software. So like if you have a PC and you need to run like a different version of Windows on top of it, or Linux or something, like this is an option. Probably better. I think VirtualBox is still like a little bit more approachable, but this is a lot better.
Yes,
because VirtualBox sucks.
Yes,
it's easy to use, but it sucks because it's owned by Oracle, and Oracle has mostly forgot it owns it. Also has a new logo, which is much worse. But this is pretty good if you have a Mac, because this makes so like your choices for running Windows and Linux stuff on a Mac is, or I'll just go with Windows. Your options are Parallels, which is extremely good but extremely expensive, and they do like per device licensing, which is a motivating factor for me in the future to consolidate my Macs. So that's annoying. VirtualBox like isn't really a thing on the modern Apple Silicon Macs. I think they have like a beta, but it's weird and doesn't work that well. But
so kind of like VirtualBox on Intel.
Yeah. But VMware Fusion is on Mac, and it's like it's kind of close to how good Parallels is, but it's free.
Yeah.
So like if you need to run Windows on a Mac and you don't want to spend money, you get this. It's like your options are this, or I forget what it's called. There's an app on the App Store, and a free download that's like a QEMU wrapper, a UTM. UTM is the other one, but UTM is much more basic. VMware Fusion, it doesn't do any of the cool like convergence mode stuff that Parallels does, where it like mixes your Windows with your Mac Windows.
It doesn't do that anymore. Fusion used to do that. That was literally the purpose of Fusion, was to make that thing. Maybe I mean maybe they got rid of that since. I just don't use it ever.
I remember it works somewhat differently, and then also when I was using VMware Fusion, it doesn't do like file access as well, so it's like a little bit more of a pain to. I don't think it like mounts your Mac files in Windows. I think you have to like drag and drop them out of the VM or something like that. But it's worse than Parallels, but it is free, and it's like about the same level of performance until you get to like games where they don't have like all of the DirectX stuff that Parallels has been working on, but like it's better than nothing, and better compatibility than you get with crossover. And also, Windows is very easy to unlock and get all the features working. You don't actually need a Windows license. And also, sort of on that note, I didn't put this in the doc, I forgot. But as of today, or at least as someone noticed today, I'll put this in the YouTube chat. You can finally download Windows 11 for ARM as like an ISO image. So you can use that in VMware or Parallels or whatever else you want to use. Because until now, you could only download the ISO for normal PCs, but they finally fixed that, so that's good. So, yeah, if you have a Mac and you need to run Windows and you don't want to spend money, get the VMware. It's more annoying, but it does work. And then also, if you're on a normal PC, maybe also use VMware instead of VirtualBox. And also, VMware is also fine for Linux stuff. Although on a Mac, that's a little bit less of a need. Well, on both Windows and Mac, you can get a Linux environment without necessarily a VM, but you might still need a VM for some stuff.
Yeah. So I'm looking to try to figure out what happened, but I think maybe they did get rid of that it like mixed environment stuff where you could have where the windows themselves lived as like Mac Windows. I'm not going to call it a shame because honestly it was not that good of a feature. Like it was clever, it was interesting, but oh boy, was it buggy. Back when I remember using it.
Yeah. It's the Parallels implementation is okay as long as you're kind of using like the productivity apps, like things you would normally drag around as Windows, but like you need to turn it off every time you open something that's supposed to be full screen. Like a game, that the games will panic if you're in that mode. And also with Parallels by default, I turn this off. Parallels by default will put all of your Windows apps in as like they'll mix your Windows apps with the Mac apps. So when I'm searching for something, I might accidentally open the Windows version. And that happened many times with Terminal until I turned that feature off. Because I'd be searching for Terminal and then I would click, the autocomplete in Spotlight and then VMware would open and be like, no, I didn't. No, not that one. Not that one.
Yeah, I remember that being a reason many years ago why I got very frustrated with that.
Yeah. They do let you turn that off while also keeping the like mix mode on if you want to do that though, so that's good. You can just turn that off if it's annoying.
Oh, so yeah, I mean this is good in the sense of if you're one of those people who has to use something like this at work and you also want to use it at home, you don't have that sort of mixed or you will no longer have that mixed complication where maybe at work they required licenses, so they might have gone with a paid product, or maybe they didn't want to use VMware, so they might have forced stuff like VirtualBox. And then at home you could use something nicer, VMware, or so that you wouldn't be using two different pieces of software, you might have gone with VirtualBox or felt the need to pay for something like Parallels. Anyway, now you can go across the board VMware and not have that complication. That's always good.
Yeah. So last thing is Boost Mobile says it's a real carrier now. Yeah. So this is weird because they sent out a press release to How to Geek and a bunch of other sites, but then like didn't put the entire thing on their website to link to. So that's cool. But basically the gist is that I'll try to get this right. So when T-Mobile and Sprint merged together, they had to sell off some of their network capacity and their bands and Boost Mobile to Dish. And the idea was that Dish would create a replacement for Sprint in the market, theoretically, whatever. So Dish has been working on that. They've been building up their own 5G network. They like had it under like a different carrier name for a while, and then it rolled out to some customers on Boost. And then Dish got bought by EchoStar. So now this is EchoStar's 5G network, and they also own Boost and T-Mobile. Okay, I hope everyone's with me. So now this is Boost Mobile, owned by EchoStar, which also owns Dish. Their network thing is now covering, I think they said, it's supposedly close to reaching 80% of the U.S. population. So it's at, I think they should be around 70 now, a little bit higher than that. My understanding is that basically they have their own network, but they're still leasing capacity from T-Mobile and AT&T. So if you're on Boost and their own towers are like around you, you might connect to that. Or, you know, you go around, you might end up connecting to T-Mobile or AT&T towers. My understanding is that they get a sweet deal on the T-Mobile roaming because of, you know, the everything they got in the acquisition agreement or the terms of the acquisition. So maybe they still prefer T-Mobile's towers in certain environments, but basically, yeah, like if you're on Boost, you might end up using their network a lot. So they did a PR this week that was basically just letting everyone know, like, hey, we're not in NVMO anymore. You know, we actually have like a network now that actually works. So now they are, you know, not really anything changing now, but like it was a gradual thing they've been working on. So now they would like to be treated with the same respect that you give T-Mobile or AT&T or Verizon. And Austin brought up the Genesis thing. Yeah, their initial test for it was a carrier called Project Genesis, and then they killed that and merged it into Boost. Yeah, so basically they're just going to keep building out their network. Presumably, at some point, most of their coverage will just be their own network. I don't know when or if that's going to happen. Also, there's a fun thing right now where building out this network was very expensive. So now Dish has a lot of debt, and which is now EchoStar's debt. And now EchoStar is trying. Shut up. EchoStar is trying to. Okay.
Technology was a mistake.
Yeah. So now they're trying to buy DirecTV. And part of the idea is that by consolidating the satellite TV market, they can recover more of the money they spent on the 5G network. But I think it was yesterday, I think it was a court wouldn't let them do the debt deal they wanted, so they might not be able to do that merger. So don't really know what's going to happen here, but it's really fun. So yeah.
Oh boy.
So Boost is a normal carrier now. They're just probably roaming a lot more than AT&T or T-Mobile or Verizon would.
Which, you know, every company that's like on the way up, that's not too surprising. They would obviously have some growing to do. That being said, I'm honestly, I still kind of look at this and wonder how many people are using it. I know that they've had, it says what? They say 7.28 million subscribers.
Yeah, I mean, Boost Mobile has a huge customer base, but yeah, like I don't know how many of those people would be connecting to their own towers that much, because
Mm-hmm.
I know for a while Boost was also doing a thing that Ting did a long time ago, where they sold different SIM cards that would connect to the different networks that they were using. So I don't know how many of their customers are on the newer SIM card that would let them use this network, and even how many of those people are then in an area where their phone would use Boost network. The majority of the time, I don't know.
Is it weird that I'm just looking at this and wondering how long it's going to be until they declare that can't they can't be profitable and they start looking for a buyer?
Yeah, I mean,
It feels like that day was always coming, and I kind of and my feeling has not changed.
Yeah, T-Mobile is like, oh man, another carrier I get to buy.
Pretty much, yeah.
Very possible, especially because don't know what's going on with buying DirecTV, and that's going to affect this. So, don't know.
Yeah, we'll see, I guess. But yikes. I know that this is technically good news for Boost, but it just feels like it's not. Or rather, I can't get out of my head the feeling that this is all just kind of a for show thing that is weirdly costing millions, but is somehow aimed at making money back or something. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being hyper cynical.
Yeah, I mean, I've not used Boost Mobile, and I was on Ting before they got bought by Dish, I think. So I have no experience with this network. Although maybe I should. I don't know if they have one of the trial programs. That might be interesting to see if they have like any of their own towers around me. I would assume they do, because covering 80% of the U.S. population would probably mean a few towers around my moderately populated city.
Yeah. The odds, anytime that a company is up around 80 to 85% of the population, you should be covering pretty much every metropolitan area, unless it's already an area that has saturation issues. Like, I'd sooner think that they would have you covered than they would, let's say, New York City and San Francisco.
Right.
Those areas, it's harder because they already have so many people, and the licenses were pretty saturated at that stage. So yeah, I don't know if they have that, but they should have you. Though, to state the obvious, if they don't have places like LA, San Francisco, New York, if they don't have those places covered, do you really want to rely on a network that doesn't have those places?
Well,
not that you travel to any of those with any sort of frequency, but in the event that you do.
In all those areas, they should be roaming on someone else's towers, so you wouldn't be without cell signal. Kirby said, I'd like to leave for an NVMe, but they either don't support eSIM on tablets or smartwatches, or only support the Apple Watch. Yeah, that's still kind of the catch with all these companies.
One of many.
Although I feel like Boost fixed some of these. I thought I remember seeing. I don't know what their eSIM situation is like. I know Cricket has tablet-specific plans, but I don't know if they're eSIM. Yeah, they just don't support tablets right now. Okay. Yeah, they have a support document. They have a support document called Tablets, and it says, "Does Boost offer plans for tablets?" And then it says, "Nope, not at the moment." Okay.
No,
Yeah,
tough cookies.
that seems it's like something you should do if you want to be called a real carrier.
I mean, I get it. Or okay, let me take that back. I don't get a reason you can't support tablets. Just outright. I that part doesn't make sense to me. Um maybe that's got something to do with like roaming agreements or whatever, but yeah, you
I
should
think
be able to
it's
support
mostly
tablets.
just yeah, it's mostly just like the infrastructure stuff for like you have a thing that like kind of has a phone number, but like it needs to not be in a way that matters.
Yeah, you should still be able to support tablets. I would understand it more if they said, "Yeah, we can't support smartwatches yet," or something like that. Because those, from what I understand, do require a little bit of fussier management. But
Yeah, because the smartwatches, the intended purpose there is like sharing your number with
yeah,
your phone, and that's harder.
and in theory, there's supposed to be that whole failover system where it like the call could go to either the watch or your phone, or in theory, you should be able to start the call on one device and then transfer over to the other. There's infrastructure there where that gets, like I said, fussier. So I get that. That one is okay. It's less okay when it's just like, oh yeah, here's a device. It can't take calls, so don't send calls to it. Like that should be an easy thing to do. So yeah. Anyway, I guess good for Boost for becoming a real carrier, ish. I don't know. Do you have any other?
No, just
Okay.
yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see where this is in like 2 years.
I'm still predicting somewhere along the way the announcement of we're looking for buyers who would like a mobile network. Hello, hey, we hear you, AT&T, or we hear you, Verizon. Why don't you come buy us up? And then we'll
Yeah,
be
especially
right back to where we were.
um, yeah, especially because U.S. Cellular is currently selling off uh, one limb of itself like every month
Yeah.
to another carrier. They sold some. I think it was they sold some spectrum to Verizon, and then more recently AT&T. So just little parts.
Yeah, we're definitely getting to that place where the, you'd have to have the craziest fantasy to think that Boost and US Cellular and any other small name carrier is going to keep competing. They just won't. We're definitely approaching the point of just three carriers and that's it. Um so yay, triopoly. Um okay. Anyway, so I think that about wraps up the topics for today. Unless there's anything else that you'd care to ponder or theorize.
Nope.
Okay. Well, in that case, anything else that you would like to plug, pitch, maybe a recent Spacebar article?
Yeah. Um, I'll put this in the YouTube chat. I did finally finish my article about the mid 2010 Mac Mini that I bought. That is over there. That is now a cool, quote unquote, retro Mac. I kind of use retro in like an inflammatory way because I know people say then they're like, oh, so it's like an iMac G3 or like an old PowerBook or something. It's like, no, it looks like the Mac Mini that Apple was selling until a month ago.
Yeah.
And it has, Wi-Fi 4 and USB 2 and all that fun stuff. But it can run basically any Mac app from like 2001-ish to like 2012, 2013, somewhere in there. So this is specifically targeted to let me run all the old apps and games that I used growing up in a more accessible way, and I'm pretty happy with it. It's pretty nice. It's very fast. You wouldn't even know this has a shitty mobile Core i5 chip in it from I think the chip was from like 2009 or 2010. Like it's not good, but when I install Snow Leopard on it, it's great. It boots in like 9 seconds. All the apps open immediately because there's a Core i5 in there. It's maxed out, 8 gigs of RAM. It's got an SSD in there, so it's screaming. It's good.
Now if only it could run ChatGPT. I'm kidding.
Well, it can because it also
could,
has.
and it would take weeks, but
Yeah. Well, I also the bonus objective here that I talk about at the end of the article was dual booting macOS Sonoma, which was a world of hurt to install, and it's also pretty slow, but it is there. So now every once in a while when I need to test something on specifically an Intel Mac, I have that. I don't need to go, dig out my other half dead Mac Mini. So yeah.
All right. Well, let's see. So cool. Go read that if you are interested in checking it out. Let's see. I will be back this weekend with some gaming. Fall Guys, Overwatch, pretty much the plan. I think I'll be pretty sure I'll be sticking with the morning schedule this weekend. Next weekend, or the following weekend, I am pretty sure I'll be doing a late schedule. I don't know exact times yet, but basically I have plans on Friday night that will carry over probably well into Saturday morning. So, yeah, I just won't even be around until later. So, let's see. Carson, gonna be out the next couple weekends. Hope that's gonna be a good time. And speaking of a good time, I hope everyone is going to have a good time the rest of this week, because we will be back next week with another RambleCast. But in the meantime, thank you all for coming by, hanging out, being part of the conversation. If you'd like to support the channel, links down below to Cash App, Streamlabs, and Patreon. And of course, huge thanks to Austin, Carson, David, Diablo, and Curvy Mermaid for being supporters of the channel. It's wild how I've gotten almost reflexively able to say all of that stuff as if it was off of a script, but no, that really is 100% just pure memory at this point. Anyway, yeah, I hope everyone has an excellent rest of the week, and I'll catch you in the next one. Good night, everybody.
Bye.